Hi and welcome to pmclounge.com. Today we are looking into the two types of WBS, the two types of work breakdown structures. One is deliverables oriented, the other is phase oriented. And if you study project management in detail, you might find some more types of WBS, but from exam perspective, these two are good enough. Now, I know what you might be thinking, right? You might be considering why we are talking about this. Why do we need to know about the different types of WBS? How important is this topic from exam perspective? So I'll be frank, from exam perspective, this topic might not be as important because your exam questions will not be based around the theory or the theoretical knowledge of WBS, or at least the types of WBS, even if there is certain questions around the theory of WBS, but there will definitely be no questions around the types of WBS. So this is not really important from the exam perspective, but if you kind of follow WBS, if you practice work breakdown structures in your real life and you come across a certain WBS on your real life projects and you get confused as to how this is totally different from what you have studied, that's the reason we are making this video, and that's the reason you should know that there are more than one types of WBS. There is more than one way of creating a WBS, and there is more than one way of basically presenting the information that WBS presents. Now, what is a WBS again, right? And I'll share the link, the entire playlist of all the videos that we have covered on WBS. So I need not go into all the details of WBS again, but WBS is essentially telling you a graphical representation of information of whatever that needs to be done in the project, right? That is what it is telling you. So it's a graphical representation, and graphical representations can be done in n number of ways, and that is why there are different ways of creating WBS. We are discussing two which are the most popular. Okay, enough of Rand Reynolds. Let's get on to the next slide. So the two types of WBS are, number one is deliverables oriented, like I mentioned, and like the first slide of this video also mentions. But this comes with this comes in several forms. This is also known as some other names which you should be aware of, right? So entity oriented, noun oriented, right? These are some of the names of the same WBS. The same deliverables oriented WBS is also known as entity oriented, noun oriented, or even product oriented. So since this kind of WBS, which is based around the product, this is typically used by engineering managers, right? So when somebody tells you deliverables oriented or entity oriented or noun oriented or product oriented WBS, they are talking about the same thing. And in the next slides, we will actually take a look at WBS for an example of WBS for both these types of WBS, right? So the next one is phase oriented, right? So phase oriented WBS, they also have several other names. They are also known as activity or task oriented WBS. They are also known as verb oriented WBS. Now, do you see the difference here? Do you see how the deliverables oriented WBS is known as noun oriented WBS as well, while the phase oriented WBS is known as the verb oriented WBS as well, right? So this is basically different names of the same kind of WBS. Now, this one is process oriented. So the phase oriented WBS is typically process oriented, and that is why it is used by project managers. Now, is there a hard and fast rule that as a project manager, you should be creating only phase oriented WBS? There's no rule as such, and you should follow and you should create WBS as per your needs and as per the practice which is followed in your organization. All right, now this is an example of a deliverables oriented WBS. So, deliverables oriented WBS, all that you are going to see are deliverables. So, the project is around intranet, and they've then broken it down into certain deliverables. Website design, which again has other deliverables like sitemap, graphic design, programs, and then you've got one more um, deliverable here, which is homepage design. So homepage design will have text, it will have images, it will have hyperlinks. So all of these are basically deliverables, right? You've got marketing pages, you've got sales pages, and these are all deliverables. So this kind of WBS is known as deliverables oriented WBS, which basically talks about deliverables. These are all nouns. These are all not verbs, right? These are not phases. These are not related to process. This is simply deliverables oriented WBS. Let's look into an example of the other kind of WBS. Now, this is a phase oriented WBS. And if you can see the same intranet project, right, will have concept phase, it will have website design phase, it will have development phase, it will have a rollout phase, and then it will have a support phase. So these are the different phases, right, of the same project. But this WBS basically divides the entire thing into phases. This is level 0, this is level 1. If you go down to level 2, you have some more phases under the concept phase, like evaluate current systems, define requirements, define specific functionality, define risk and risk management approach, develop project plan, brief web development team. All of these are basically different levels. You're going into more granular details of the phases. Level 3 talks about define user requirements, define content requirements. Again, this is a further drilled down level of defined requirements, right? So we've got content requirements, system requirements, server owner requirements. All of these are different phases of the same project, and this kind of WBS is basically breaking up the work in phases, and it is not breaking it up as part of, as deliverables. It's talking about phases and not deliverables. So those were the two types of WBS that you should be aware of. Again, from exam perspective, this might not be as important, but from your own project management knowledge perspective, this is something that you should know of. Even in your mock tests, if you find a question like this, which might not ask you to differentiate between the two types of WBS, but it may ask you to, one of the options for a certain question could be deliverable oriented WBS, and other could be phase oriented WBS, and you might get confused on what these two are. And that's the reason we covered a topic like this, so that you are aware that there are basically different types of WBS which are available out there in the industry, and industry basically has their own ways of defining WBS and creating WBS. Several project managers also have their own way of creating WBS the way they want. So that's all that we had in this video. Do hit the like button if you like the video. Do share our video. That is definitely going to help us. Comment if you have any questions regarding WBS, regarding PMP, regarding project management, or anything in general. Do comment on this video and we'll definitely get back. We create videos based on user comments, and we basically have an entire series which is based on that, which is also known as Launch Fever. And subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, which is youtube.com/PMC Lounge. We have moved from PMP Lounge to PMC Lounge. Our social media handles have also moved from PMP Lounge to PMC Lounge, right? So our social media handles for Facebook and Twitter are facebook.com/PMC Lounge and twitter.com/PMC Lounge. As always, do check out the website pmclounge.com, which is your number one free resource for PMP and other project management certifications, as well as project management industry information, wherein we cover a lot of reports that come in from PMI, and we are actually in the process of covering one of those reports. Do check out the previous video that we posted, and as always, feel free to go to the playlist section of this YouTube channel so that you can have a detailed content on any topic that you're searching for. That's all that I had. Thank you and have a nice day.